Well, hello, my friend, and welcome to this week's episode of Beautifully Whole. This is your host, LeeAnne Hayden, coming to you from the loft. And if you happen to hear a puppy barking or something going on, my son, who lives next door, him and his girlfriend got a dog. So I am puppy sitting a lot. So I don't know if you've seen it on social media. He's the cutest little chocolate lab. However, he's a baby. He's only 3 months old, so he likes attention. So hopefully we can get this episode out without any interruptions. But this week, I want to talk to you guys about work, right? Like I want to tell you guys a story about this time that I went back to corporate America. You know, I'm here and I have posted this podcast for a few years, and I do a lot of collaboration work with Hollister. And then on top of that, I have a health and wellness business. I've been in the network marketing industry. I've done health coaching. I've done fitness coaching. I've done all the things. So I've worked for myself since, I think it was in 2012, I worked for myself, just for myself. So prior to that, I was in corporate America. I was in corporate sales. I worked for ADP, the payroll company. So my job really was going out and talking to business and talking to businesses about, what are you doing? Not just from a payroll perspective, but I sold their PEO, which is basically employee leasing. So I would go to a company and I would assess how they're doing their business, how their HR is, all their health benefits, all of that stuff, and then restructure everything for them and say, hey, listen, if they came under our umbrella, here's the pricing of everything, right? So, and then the employees would become ours. So I did that for years and it was a great job. It was a great successful job. It taught me a ton about sales and business to business. Now, I've been out of the industry since, like I said, 2012. So in 2012, I fell accidentally into network marketing. And at the time, I was doing fitness competitions on the side as fun. And I was like, okay. And then the team I was part of, we got an email and we said, hey, and they said to us, hey, these are the supplements that we're going to be starting to use. And I had my money from my job. And I was like, you know what, whatever you guys say I need, because I don't know if you know anything about fitness competitions or getting ready for a prep for a competition, but you're eating 6 times a day. It's protein forward. You're working out. Like, it's very strict. It's very rigid. You're kind of following a protocol. So when they were like, these supplements we're going to be using, protein powders, shakes, meal replacements, all this, I was like, here, you know what? Now I don't have to think about it because I can go off to work and just mix up a shake and have it. And I was tired of eating cold chicken. That's what I felt I was eating all the time, was cold chicken. And then I found out, I'm like, oh, wait, there's a business opportunity behind this. And I really didn't understand the time. I didn't understand network marketing at all, like at all. So I'm like, oh, we can get paid. Well, maybe I can get my products paid for. Why not? So I did a little bit of work, and then I got dragged, right, to one of those events. Have you ever been with, you guys know what I'm talking about, where it's in it used to be, this was 15 years ago, almost, just about 14 years ago, where they used to have events at hotels, and you'd go in and you'd be sitting there, and next thing you know, they're like trying to sign you up for something. And I'm like, all right, listen, I have a real job. And they were like, no, just come with us. We'll have fun. It's a bunch of us girls. We'll just go and we'll have fun. So I went to this event. And when I saw these people walking across the stages holding these big fat checks, right? I was like, wait a minute. If I do X, Y, and Z, that's my base salary that I'm making right now. And I'm almost there. From a business, doing it on the side, not really knowing what I was doing, not really understanding it, just going, I want free products. And then it was like, well, maybe you can pay a car payment too. Well, maybe it can help me pay for Jessica's college tuition, whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, but then I started watching them cross the stage with all these big fat checks. And I'm like, wait a minute, I could get what I'm making and I could do that too. That could be my whole job. So I came home from work that day. And I told John, that's it. I'm quitting my job and I'm doing this network marketing thing, this health and wellness supplement company thing full time. And he's like, no, you're not. We have kids going into college. This can't happen. I go, no. If I get to X rank and I do X, Y, and Z, then I can, right? Well, most times it's not successful. Like most times we have these things and it's like, oh, it takes a lot of work, guys. I know you see online people like, oh, I just post and it's easy. It's not easy. This is a job. And, but I'm like, okay, let me go try it. Because I still had that work mind. So I tried it. I said, if I get to this rank, then I'm quitting. And he went, all right, well, if you can get to that rank and make that money, then fine. So I put my head down and I did it part-time while I was still working corporate America. And I was like, all right, fine. I got here. I did it. I quit my corporate job. Just like that. Going back in retrospect, I probably should have hung on to the corporate job for another year just for sustainability, right? It's like just to make sure that it was going to be like a longevity type thing. Like this was going to be for a long time, not just a part-time, not just a little bit. Anyways, long story short, year goes by, I had doubled my income and we were doing great. The business was blowing up and we were all having a great time with each other. It was, like I said, it was all of us girls that did fitness competitions together. So it was just like this great you guys know the word I'm thinking about, camaraderie, right? So there was just all of us together having a blast, growing a business, making money, having fun. And then I went to work. Tyra Banks had mentioned she was launching a cosmetics line, so I went and did that too. So I've been in the industry again since 2012 is when I quit my corporate job. And so then I moved over and I started working with Tyra Banks, growing her cosmetics line, had a big team. Like my first company, I had 12,000 people on my team. With Tyra, I had 8,000 people on my team within 2.5 years, and then she shut the door. So all of a sudden it was like this crash. All of a sudden I was making all this money and somebody shut the doors. Now this can happen in corporate too, right? Like there's layoffs going on, there's all kinds of other stuff that can happen. So I was like, oh crap, all right, now what am I gonna do? And at the time, John was between jobs. He has been in software sales for a long time. So he was between jobs and he was trying to figure out his next move. So he had moved into a new company and we had sold the house and we were talking about moving to New York City. So this is right before we moved to New York City. So we were talking about moving to New York City and he's like, LeeAnne, you have to go get a job. Like with corporate, like we need the money like right now. So, you get a job, there's your salaries in there. There's no time to build. Like when you're building a business, it takes time, sometimes months, years, right? And it's cyclical, it has ups and downs and you're trying to figure all that out, right? And still make a living. And so he's like, you have to go back to corporate America. And this was 2 years after my ostomy. So I had my ostomy in 2016. We were moving to New York in 2018. So what did I do? I called my connections, right, within my old company, and I got a job. I got a great sales job in Manhattan, working with private equity. And so I was doing that job, but having an ostomy and being in an office when it was, like I said, it was 2 years old. I wasn't ready I didn't know what to expect. And I was very nervous. I was very scared. It was a sales job, but they wanted us in the office because this was New York City and that's just how they were. I mean, my other sales jobs, when I worked for corporate, I worked from home half the time. I was in the office the other half of the time, right? But here I am now, new city, people who don't really know me, they don't know, I wasn't talking live about having an ostomy. They didn't know anything, right? They didn't know I had survived cancer. They didn't know I had a colostomy bag. They didn't know any of that stuff because I was keeping it private because I wasn't quite sure how to fit that all in to work. And it was a cubicle type situation. So in the process, right, of John and I living in Manhattan, acting like we're in our 20s, which looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, we had a lot of fun, but getting up the next day, going to work, doing all that stuff, it was one of those things that I'm in a cubicle and all of a sudden Ivan starts to rumble. Ivan's my name for my colostomy bag, if you don't know that. So Ivan would start to rumble and I'm like, can people hear this? And in my head, I'm going, of course people can hear this because I can hear the dude sitting next to me in that cubicle next to me burping with his mouth shut. Like, that's how quiet it was. And it was really hard to figure that out. And I remember sometimes I would gas and it would come through the filter and I'm like, I can smell it. Can they smell it? And then I remember there was one day I was sitting in my boss's office and there were 3 of us in the office, and we were having a conversation, and all of a sudden Ivan started to rumble, but it wasn't like a gassy, like, rumble. It almost kind of like, it was like a vibration, right? It was like, brrr. And one of the girls goes, oh my gosh, who's got a phone on in here? Is there a phone in here? Because she thought the phone was on vibrating, and I didn't say anything. Guys, I didn't even know how to talk to them about what was going on, and it really was messing with my confidence within myself, and that was coming out in a lot of things that I was going through. That was coming out in meetings, because typically I was very confident. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do it. And, you know, eventually, slowly, I started to tell people in the office, like, oh, you know, I have a colostomy bag. Sometimes it makes noises, this, that, and the other thing. And I ended up having to say it, or I felt like I needed to explain. And there was one day, so all this is going on. And then there was one day that, again, it's sales. And the big boss had been on paternity leave for a few months, and nobody was ever in the office. Like, it was like nobody was ever there. I was always there. Because I was still like the new girl, right? I was only there for a year, so I was the new girl. And I remember going into the office all the time. So one day there was a Friday, and it was 3 o'clock. He was back from paternity leave, and I had gone into my boss, and I told her, I said, hey, listen, it's slow. It's a Friday. Nobody's around. I'm working with private equity firms. Like, I'm trying to build relationships with them, and I'm trying to do it over the phone, and nobody's talking to me at 3 o'clock on a Friday. So I said, I'm going to head home. I'll bring my computer. I have my phone in case something comes up. And she's like, yeah, sure. No problem. So I pack up my stuff, and I go to leave, and I walk by her and my boss, and I go, all right, guys, I'll see you on Monday. And I left. So Monday comes along. I think you know where I'm going with this. Monday comes along, and the bigger boss says to me, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. And he goes, who do you think you are, walking by your boss and your boss's boss when you haven't hit your quota? And who do you think you are to leave on a Friday afternoon? And I said, well, I had told her I was leaving. He goes, yeah, she told me that. She was just like, whatever, go ahead and go, because she was trying to close some other deals with other people that were trying to sell things. And it made me feel like, really? Like, really? I don't know whether it was my ego or what, but I kept saying, like, I kept thinking in my head, I was so successful working for myself with my own freedom. I'm sitting here trying to do a job, and I'm insecure about myself and my situation. It's probably coming out in different areas. But he's like, I know you've been successful and you still have your money from your network marketing company, because I had still had the first one, was still paying me residual. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I went home and I talked to John, and I was crying. And he's like, what's wrong? And I go, I left at 3 o'clock on a Friday, and I got in trouble for leaving at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Because I'm not to my quota, and I'm still kind of new, and nobody was around. Nobody, like I said, nobody had been around for months. And so he was like, well, we really don't need your income, so you can quit. He's like, I'm doing fine. You can quit. You still have your other thing. And if you want to go back to work for yourself again, go ahead. And so I did. And so I went into the office, and I gave my notice, and I called the boss's boss, who was a friend of mine, and I just kind of gave him a heads up. Like, he's the one that I had called to get a job, and I'm like, listen, I just want you to know that this situation, like, that I'm giving my notice. And he's like, don't go, you know, we can talk about something else you can do. And I'm like, no, it made me really, really think that my freedom was so important to me, and I'm really more of an entrepreneur. Like, I can work structure, and I work. Like, I'd work on a Saturday, I could work on a Sunday, I could wake up at 10 o'clock, you know, before I go to bed, or if I'm in the middle of the night and I wake up and there's an idea or a thought, I can get up and write it down and think about it. And like, I like structure. I do like structure, which I need, and we're going to talk about that in a different episode, but it was more of like, when I want the structure. There's something about being an entrepreneur that, like, to me, freedom was everything. But structured freedom to me is everything. Meaning, if it's 3 o'clock on a Friday and it's quiet, I can stop working and go do whatever, and I can work on a Saturday morning if I need to, right? So all of that, it kind of made me know that I wanted my own hours. I wanted my own thing. And the thing that I love about what I do now, or working for myself, and maybe you guys we can have this whole conversation, because I would love to, because I know there's plenty of you out there that, you have a corporate job, and maybe you have an ostomy or not, and it's like the freedom, and if you have an ostomy, I want to know what you do for a job. Like, what do you do for a living? Because I've met a bunch of you, and a lot of people have their own personal jobs, or they're doing something, not sitting in a cubicle all day long. Or maybe you are, and people around you know what's going on. And I would love to know how you guys are handling that from an ostomy perspective. But literally, what I've realized over the last few years, because this was back in 2019, right? So 7 years ago. And so I went back to working for myself. I got my the partnership with Hollister came out of me leaving. The podcast that I created came out of me leaving that job, me getting back into the health and wellness industry, all of that has happened because I left that corporate job. The speaking engagements and all the thing. And so it has given me working for myself gave me my confidence back. And I don't ever want to look back and go back to a corporate job. Now, if I needed to, like financially, if I needed to do that again, I would absolutely go do that. But I think it would be hard for me to try and figure out what I could do from that perspective. Right. So, it comes to, you can't control your body. Like, I couldn't control my body. I couldn't control I could control my income, because I would just have to work harder, but I can do that for myself. And I'm trying to figure out, when I started this episode, it was more or less, I wanted to tell you that story because I want to understand what people are doing out there in their lives right now. Working for yourself takes a lot. It's not an easy road, but I do appreciate the fact that if my daughter wants to go to the beach on a Monday, I can go to the beach on a Monday, and just know that I need to work a little extra hard for myself on a Tuesday, right? Because again, it's for me, it's for the income. So, if you're sitting there going, what's next? Or do I need a side income or anything like that? Let's have that conversation. All right, that's all I have for you. It was just story sharing time today. All right. So here's what I want to leave you with today. I left corporate America because I could not control my environment. I could not control when Ivan decided to rumble in a quiet meeting. I could not control whether the person next to me heard it or smelled it. I could not control the fact that leaving at 3:00 on a Friday in a slow week cost me my dignity in front of a boss who didn't know my whole entire story. But here's what I have learned in the 7 years since I walked out of that office. Working for yourself does not give you control either. It gives you something better. It gives you ownership. When things go wrong in your own business, and they do, they're yours to fix. When things go right, and they do, they are yours to keep. If you're sitting somewhere right now in a cubicle, in a meeting, managing something in your own body that nobody around you knows about, wondering if there's another way, I just want you to know there is. It's not easier, but it's yours. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next week on Beautifully Whole.